Bryon, is it Bryon or Byron? Bryon asks, on a post Carson did about SDOAR with refs from you. I'm not sending the images because I got enough in here. Can you ask Sam how his wrist is for me and if he's able to draw regularly again? Is this new artwork in this post? No, it wouldn't be new artwork. The wrist, I definitely pushed it too far with the Spawn 10 covers. I've been waiting for it to bounce back, and it's not terrible, but I think all I really accomplished with all of my drawing at shoulder height and using the magnification and lowering the pneumatic seat so it's only 14 inches off the ground, I did manage to make the wrist not hurt while I'm drawing, but that's different from having the wrist not hurt, and there's definitely a sense of having used up a certain amount of the wrist doing the Spawn covers. The 4 Spawn covers was probably just, pretty likely too much. So now I'm having to get out my mental slide rule and go, well, okay, how much do I figure is left in the wrist, and what's the best uses for the wrist? So the latest on that is I was going to do 2 or 3 Cerebus number 2 covers, and I had already done one where basically I got Alfonso at Studio Comics Press to do a blue line on drawing paper of Cerebus number 2, 11 by 17, very, very light blue, and then basically penciling a bit of it and inking it as if I was penciling, as if I was inking a blue penciled Cerebus number 2 cover. It looks really good. I'm very pleased with how it turned out. Sean said that he was very impressed with it. Dagan really likes it. So I was going to do a couple of more covers, but looking at the actual revenue from the covers on Spawn 10, I have to wait and see what the auction results were at Heritage Auctions, where they auctioned the covers. So that I have to say, well, okay, is that enough money to use up that much wrist? Which that's one of those questions that you don't get to ask yourself until you've pushed your wrist too far, and then have to sort of assess, okay, where am I? Definitely there's more pain in the forearm now, which I think is what was mostly the net effect out of drawing at shoulder height and drawing at the absolute extension of the wrist and of the fingers and thumb. That whatever that does or will do or did to whatever it is in my wrist and forearm, it moved it down to the forearm elbow area. And so I'll be watching the next time that I draw to go, okay, is that something that doesn't affect the drawing, but affects the wrist and forearm and elbow? And I'll have to make that assessment independently. One of the things is Spawn 10 was the only possible book that could have the kind of payday that it did. I'm pretty sure Cerebus isn't in that category. Cerebus number 2 is not going to sell in the quantities that Spawn 10 did. I don't think. I would be happy to be pleasantly surprised. Dagan is finding new customers wherever it is that he's finding them. And it would be nice if that happened, if we did a new Cerebus number 1 cover with the Cerebus number 2 Kickstarter, and we managed to get above what we did on Cerebus number 1. But logically, you have to assume number 2 is always going to sell less well than a number 1. But in terms of Strange Death of Alex Raymond, I had another weird thing happen just in the last week, where a longtime Cerebus patron, and we're talking about going back 40 years, and a female, and not Margaret Liss. It's like, that's the default thing. Okay, female Cerebus fan, Margaret Liss. No, there's a conservative estimate, about 5 or 6 female Cerebus fans, even at this point. And this Cerebus fan, who I'm not going to identify, was one of the people that bought Strange Death of Alex Raymond, Volume 1 from Eddie Kana, and has been reading it and rereading it and rereading it, and just like trying not to dump on Cerebus. She says, it sounds like I'm insulting your 6,000-page masterpiece, and I'm not doing that. But I really think Strange Death of Alex Raymond is the best thing that you've ever done. And sent me a check for $10,000 so that I would work on The Strange Death of Alex Raymond. So that has to be factored into the mix of, well, okay, I assumed that the only place that I could make money is Spawn 10 covers, and real money. The only place I could make real money is Spawn 10 covers and Teenage Mutant Ninja Turtle covers, and then after that, it's all over for Grandpa. Nobody's going to be, paying 5-figure amounts for whatever else I could possibly do. So this one threw me for a loop of going, well, okay, I think this is, I've been trying to talk myself into being a year and a half ahead on Cerebus in Hell. That's good enough. You don't have to maintain that or try and improve on that. And so for the last, I got the last Cerebus in Hell done the 24th, 25th of November. And the commitment that I had with myself is anytime that happened and I didn't have other things that I had to do, the remaining days in the month I would devote to Strange Death of Alex Raymond. So that's what I was already doing when the check came in. And I've had to send the check back because it was made out to Dave Sim. It's got to be made out to Ivark Anaheim. But it's, okay, how much of my time does $10,000 buy working on Strange Death of Alex Raymond? And that's another one of those mental slide rule things. I don't know. It's, I was thinking, I'm tired of barely having enough money to pay the bill. So from now on, I'm doing stuff just that will make money. So this was an enormous surprise, very gratifying, and I have been able to put in already 5 full days on Strange Death of Alex Raymond, basically just building from where I left off with the STOR-OAR mock-ups that Bryon would have seen, that Carson would have posted. So I'm looking probably for at least another 2 weeks, just refining that, where I've got the section which is bleak prospects, and the photo shoot for Life magazine is one section, and I'm just smoothing that out and getting it as concise as I can, and typing in the annotations that go with it, the online annotations. So I think what I'm going to be doing is working through that. Basically, here's where I see Ward Green's voodoo, and here's the best examples of it in these stories, and then commenting on those exhaustively. The Doll's House is early on with the Ward Green voodoo, so it was a pretty simple, maybe 10, 15 pages to explain exhaustively. The one after Margaret Mitchell's death that I've been working on, Peril in the Snow, the annotations alone are 41 pages, and there's probably a good 25 pages just saying, this is what I'm seeing here. And I know exactly what I'm seeing. Describing what I'm seeing to people who don't think in terms of metaphysics and don't think in terms of comic art metaphysics and the use of comic art metaphysics as a form of voodoo, it's a very, very laborious process, saying I have to describe this precisely, and I have to do it in simple enough language, and I have to do it as concisely as possible. And with something like Peril in the Snow, 41 pages of annotations as concise as I can get. The compromise on that is when this gets turned into a graphic novel, whether it's Carson that turns it into a graphic novel or someone else turns it into a graphic novel way off in the future, you can just read the graphic novel, and if you don't want to read all of the annotations, you don't have to read all of the annotations. But all of this stuff is very, very extensive, very, very deep rabbit holes that it's very, very difficult not to go too far down them. And that's the experience that Eddie Kana and I have both had. Working on that part of Strange Death of Alatrim, the advantage is I can do it almost all left-handed typing. Left-handed typing slows me down enough that I already have to think very, very hard about the way I'm phrasing things, and going through the same text 5 times, 10 times, 15 times, and going, no, that's still not what it is that I'm trying to say, or it's not simple enough, or it's not concise enough, or it doesn't build very carefully on the previous point. So I have to rewrite it and rewrite it and rewrite it. And but gradually that whole section, which is 5 different parts, including the Doll's House commentaries and Peril in the Snow commentaries and Bleak Prospects commentaries. The big one, the giant size commentary is going to be on The Caged Songbird. But I knew that all along. Eddie knew that all along. So I have to build up to that. It's here's the Doll's House, which is reasonably easy to explain in a short number of pages. Here's Peril in the Snow, which takes a much larger number of pages. And here's the Caged Songbird, which is the mother of thank you for saving the longest answer for last, although it probably has competition from the comic book cardboard file boxes. Any final thoughts there, Matthew?
I'm going 10 grand. Wow.
What's that?
10 grand? Wow.
Oh yes. It was, and it was at the end of the letter. It's like she had taped the check to the end of the letter, and it was a 5-page letter, and it was here's where I started first reading and buying your work, and that was the first paragraph, and then I went on to this stage, and then flip it over and on to the next stage, and I went, I think this is one of those. It's taken you 40 years, but you finally pissed me off so badly. I am never, ever, ever reading your work again under any circumstances. And I went, okay, I'll read the rest of this letter some other time. And it wasn't until I was actually back in the house, like Rolly drops off the mail in Camp David. And it wasn't until I was in the off-White House that I went, well, okay, if she's been here for 40 years and she can write a 6-page letter telling me exactly how much of a jerk I am and how badly I pissed her off, and I only deserve exactly what I get. You get to the end of the letter, and here's a check for $10,000.
I'm glad you're still working on the book, because, like I said, when I read the first volume, I sent Eddie an email going, "That's great. When can we get volume 2?"
Yeah, well, one of the things that $10,000 buys you is I got Alfonso to print up one of the rough copies of volume 2 and signed it to her, and Rolly FedExed it to her today, so she should have it tomorrow, along with some of the Strange Death of Alex Raymond tracing paper. She said, "Don't send me any artwork. I've got artwork." One of the first things she bought was the hand-colored First Fifth back in whenever that was, 1984, and she's got that on the wall. That's fine. That'll do her for artwork. And it's like, well, no, come on, $1,000. I can't just say, well, okay, I'll work on Strange Death of Alex Raymond for 2 weeks, and then I'll go back to doing my Turtles cover. I don't really know what order I'm going to be doing stuff in, but yes, it is very gratifying to say. I don't know how limited the time is that will allow me to work on Strange Death of Alex Raymond, but I think we can say probably more than till the end of this week, kind of thing.
Right.
Right.
Speaking of the Turtles and their covers,
yes?
Kevin Eastman's doing a massive auction of his Turtles archive stuff, like through Heritage. One of the things they're selling is one of the micro series, the entire issue, all the original art.
Wow.
And I mean, like graded copies of their pre-Turtles work. You know, the gobbledygook they did a couple issues of. The one thing that jumped out at me that I went, okay, Matt, you have more money than brains temporarily, and I bid on it and completely got blown out of the water because I knew it was going to go for a lot more than I could pay, was Kevin Eastman's original preliminary cover to Turtles 8.
Really?
I stopped watching. I keep getting emails saying, track your bids, and I'm like, I just don't want to see how much I'm losing by, so I'm not looking anymore. But it was, last I looked, it was a couple weeks ago, and it was already up to like $300 or $400. But it's, all the Turtles and Renette and Service, this is what the cover is going to kind of look like. And I'm like, I would love to get that. It's not going to happen. But
Yeah, yeah.
I'm thinking, I hope he sent you a copy, and I'm sure he didn't.
It's interesting because I can't just do the front cover. If I'm going to do the Turtles 8 cover, it's a wraparound. Um, if I tried to just do the front cover, there's only 3 turtles. And people are going to go, wait a minute, where's the 4th turtle? If I'm buying the turtles, I get 4 turtles. But what's interesting is the front cover is going to be a lot easier for me to do. Again, the same process where Alfonso printed out a blue line of the Turtles 8 cover, and I'm just repenciling some parts of it, like I'm putting a helmet on Cerebus, the same helmet that he's got in the story. Doing more things with lighting, using the villain on the back cover as the light source for everything on the whole wraparound. But every time I look at the 2 parts, the front and back cover, my wrist just starts throbbing, going, we're not actually doing all of that, are we? And it's like, I'm not sure. I'm not sure, because if there's any other Maximum Dave Sim Payday, short of actually selling Cerebus artwork, which I don't want to do, I want to preserve the Cerebus archive, doing an updated version of the cover of Turtles number 8 has got to be at or near the top of the list. But if there's anybody else out there with very, very deep pockets, who is a huge fan of Strange Death of Alex Raymond and is going, why is Dave doing all of this other, as they would see it, crap, when he could be working on Strange Death of Alex Raymond? I am willing to be tempted. if you want to send me a check and say, Dave, stop working on that crap and work on Strange Death of Alex Raymond, here's X number of dollars, I will be happy to develop my own internal taximeter that goes, okay, that much money buys you this much time on Strange Death of Alex Raymond, and buys you like I say, a rough copy of Volume 2 and some Strange Death of Alex Raymond tracing paper, and probably being kept in the loop on what it is that I'm doing. This patroness, I have already told her, if you want, I can tell Eddie Kana to do a Senate investigation-sized document dump of everything that we've got on Strange Death of Alex Raymond, including all of our correspondence on it. But there's no spoiler warnings in there. You're going to read stuff that, if you're trying to read the book sequentially, is going to spoil stuff for you. And there's also evolved and changing thinking on my part. Things that I wrote 3 or 4 pages about to Eddie Kana, saying, here's what I think is going on here. Once I got it out of my system, once I got the 3 or 4 pages written, I went, no, that's not it, but I needed to get that out of my system so I could get to what is it. I think there's 2 correspondence boxes, which are an inch thick, each on the Cage Songbird, and that doesn't include all of the printouts from Wikipedia of everything that Ward Green references in the Cage Songbird. So whether she would want to go for that, that would also be on the table for any other deep-pocketed Strange Death of Alex Raymond patron. You want everything? I'm sure Eddie could put together 2 or 3 thumb drives that would have all of the material on it, and you'd probably be reading it for weeks and weeks and weeks, and then seeing what I did with it. Hopefully, as I'm able to get further along on the book.
Okay. Well, I mean,
okay.
That's not me. I got pockets, but they got
no,
holes and moss in them.
I wasn't hinting. Why don't you sell all your possessions and send me all of the money so I can work on Strange Death of Alex Raymond? Believe me, I couldn't afford me. So I'm right with you on that.
I mean, I was thinking about getting your business cards printed up that have Service's head on them that say "Have hand, will write."
Well, I've been thinking of getting that done. Actually, I've been thinking of getting mailing labels done. It would seem like such a great luxury to have Cerebus mailing labels with space to write an address in on those rare occasions when I send something out on my own or when Rolly sends them out. Instead of, Rolly still writing out Cerebus Box 1674 Station C, Kitchener, Ontario, on all of the packages. It's like, I'm not destitute or anything, but there's better uses for the money. I think I might be in a time period where I can actually afford mailing labels and maybe even actually printed envelopes.
Well, you could go out and get a stamp that's got Service in the address and just stamp the boxes.
Yeah, or Rolly could, but it's one of those, well, right now there's other things to be done. I think we're finally coming to a breathing space after Spawn 10, which is now moving ahead. I just approved the Spawn 10 Halloween and Grandma covers final version for Sean. So that was the last jigsaw puzzle piece missing for Waverly Press. The printer wasn't going to print the other 18 covers or whatever it was until they had all of the covers in-house. So that was what the delay was on that. But we're finally full speed ahead on that end of things as well.
I got an email from somebody going that all the Service and Spawn and High Society stuff has been removed from the Waverly's website. What's going on? So I sent a message, and I got a response of, "Oh yeah, we're." How I phrased my message was, is something going on? Are you doing a site update, or have you and Dave had an Alan Moore, Steve Bissett falling out, and that's the end of it? And I got a response of, no, it's a site update where everything, new stuff and everything will be back within a week or two, and I'm going, okay, that's what I figured. But then I responded to the first email I got going, oh no, you didn't hear it from me, but oh yeah, big falling out. They're never going to speak again. And then I put a couple a couple line breaks, and then I'm like, no, I'm just messing with you. It's a site update. And then I signed off and put in parentheses, the look on your face.
You see, you got to be careful about doing that
because it'll blow up in my face, in your face, and everyone else's face.
Exactly, because that's how the internet works. Anything in proximity, if somebody said it, doesn't matter if it was a joke. We don't have jokes anymore. Not if somebody doesn't want it to be a joke. If they don't think it's a joke, it's not a joke. But no, we're forging ahead. It's an amazing learning experience just over the course of Service number 1 and Spawn 10, and everything has to be rethought constantly. I've never had that experience before of most of Cerebus was done as, okay, this is how we're doing it. We don't revisit this. This is how we can stay on a monthly schedule. If we're always revisiting this and changing how we do things is going to take the place of getting the book out every month. So having had pretty close to 26 years of that with falling behind when we went to get caught up in Hawaii, this is very, very different where it's, okay, this worked last time. We're not sure if this is working this time, but this seems to be working. Let's try more of this. And this is the time period now. Now that the Spawn 10 Kickstarter is over and the Indiegogo Spawn 10 Kickstarter is over, now we've got this interregnum period where the fulfillment is done, and the next time that we need to have hard answers, yes, we're all done theorizing about the Cerebus #2 Kickstarter. This is how it's going to go. Needs to be decided when everyone is getting their Spawn 10 packages, because that's the way that it works the best. You waited a while. Here's the thing that you've been waiting for. We're ready to do another one, and here's exactly how that one's going to go. And there's a lot more decision making on Dagan's part, because he's the fulfillment guy, and he's the one having to make sure that everybody gets what they're getting. I make suggestions, and if it's something that meshes with what he thinks is going to work, then that's the way that we're going to do it. If it doesn't, then that's not the way that we're going to do it. And I'm fine with that. Part of the ambition was to be as hands-off as possible with the Waverly Press Cerebus stuff, so that I'm actually working on other material. I'm spending my time doing creative stuff, and everyone else is putting in the time doing the stuff that I can't do, that other people can do. And that's really the new standard operating procedure. It's the same as, I don't go out shopping to stores to buy something. I tell Rolly, can you go and get me this thing? And he goes and gets it and puts it on my personal tab that I pay him. It doesn't make sense for me to go and do something that Rolly can do, because Rolly can't sit down and do a Cerebus #2 cover. If he could, that would be great. Tell you what, Rolly, I'll go and pick up the mail today. You sit down and draw the Cerebus #2 cover.
If only you could tag team with somebody else. Of, okay, today it's your day to draw. I'm gonna go do something else.
Yeah, it's very interesting looking at the right hand, at the right wrist, that all of this is balanced on, and it's there it is right there. And this is me up here, and never the twain shall meet. Okay, we're going to cap it there, Matthew. Say hi to Paula, and say hi to Janice Pearl, and say hi to Natasha for me.
Will do. And God willing and the creek don't rise, we'll do this again next year.
Next year? Oh, God, that sounds horrible. Oh, God. Okay, well, maybe it'll be better than this year. Couldn't be. Well, I won't say that either.
Yeah, it could be worse, but we're hoping for better.
That's right. Okay, have a good night, man.
You too. Have a good night, Dave.
Bye.
Okay, everybody, I'm going to quickly show the audio-visual people my hand again, because people had seen it. So, it still has the burst capillaries on the middle finger, but the bruising, if you compare it to my other fingers, it looks really good. And then on the other side, the nail's black, but most of the bruising's gone, and it looks a lot better. So thanks for all the well wishes. I really appreciate it. And again, see everybody again next year, or in January, however you want to look at it. And for you fine folks for the audio side, picture a really bad